Now you can park and ride. President initiates novel luxury bus service. Construction work of the Mahinda Rajapaksa International Gem Tower in Ratnapura commences. More Ukrainian tourists land in Matala, while Ukraine remains under COVID-19 lockdown. State Pharmaceutical Cooperation seeks approval to import COVID-19 vaccine. Anuruddha Padenia was insulted by fake news. GMOA prepares to take the matter to court. Method of filing action against Minister Johnston Fernando was illegal, says the Colombo High Court. Issues in Sri Lanka cricket are inherent. The country's first-class structure is not nurturing talent as it should, Kumar Sangakkara tells the international community.
Good evening, you're watching Primetime News on TV1. On your top story of the day. It has been already proposed to hand over 49% of the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port to the Indian Adani Group. There is much controversy over the sale of this national asset that is currently in the possession of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority.
The Colombo port is considered to be an important strategic location in the Indian Ocean for transshipment purposes. The Colombo port currently consists of 5 main terminals: the Jaya Container Terminal, the Samagi Container Terminal, South Asia Gateway Terminal or SAGT, Colombo International Terminal or CICT, and the East Container Terminal. The SAGT has already fallen into the hands of multinational companies, while a majority stake of the CICT is owned by China. The Jaya Container Terminal is operating under the Sri Lanka Ports Authority but lacks adequate facilities to compete with the private sector. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority still owns the East Container Terminal due to the movements launched by trade unions.
What is the importance of the East Container Terminal?
This terminal, that has a depth of about 18 meters, is a terminal where some of the largest ships in the world can dock.
Why is India interested in this terminal?
India already operates 13 major ports and 187 minor and intermediate ports. That adds up to a total of 200 ports. The Deen Dayal port in Gujarat, Pradeep port in Odisha, Jawaharlal Nehru port in Maharashtra, Vishakhapatnam port in Andhra Pradesh, and the Mumbai port in Maharashtra are some key ports among them. India earned an income of 154 billion Indian rupees through the 13 major ports it operates during the 2019 fiscal year. India is now eyeing the Colombo port against a backdrop where they are already earning massive profits through the ports that they operate. Trade unions point out that transshipment facilities at the Colombo port are offered at a very competitive price. The cost of travelling to Colombo to dock is much cheaper than travelling to an Indian port, as Sri Lanka is situated closer to international maritime trade routes. The Adani Group, which is preparing to invest in the East Container Terminal, is already investing heavily in the development of the Vizhinjam port in India. They are planning on investing in Sri Lanka against such a backdrop.
A
few months ago, images were telecast on a TV channel of police arresting a person who sold moonshine. He told the police officer that he didn't sell moonshine. The police officer then asked him, "Did you give him moonshine?" He said, "Yes, I did." Then the police officer asked him, "Did you take money from him for that?" The man said, "Yes, I did." The police officer then said, "That is the definition of selling something." So with regard to the East Container Terminal, we would like to raise the question, is the 49% stake of the East Container Terminal to be given to the Adani Group? The answer is yes. Are you taking money from the Adani Group for that stake? Again, the answer is yes. We are getting $700 million US. Then that is the definition of selling something. Is India giving away their ports or terminals to richer countries? No, they are not. India is not going to sell their ports to either America or Russia. Even Malaysia or Singapore too don't sell off their ports or terminals. None of our neighboring countries do these things. Then why is Sri Lanka doing this?
A
section of the Colombo port given to China. The Hambantota port given to China on a 99-year lease. Attention has also been drawn towards the Kankasanture and Trincomalee ports. Doesn't handing over strategic assets around the island pose a threat to our nation? If the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port should be handed over to India because the previous government handed over the Hambantota port to China, does that also mean that Trincomalee, Kankasanture or Galle ports should be given to other foreign nations? Trade unions have taken a strong stance against this, and their opposition transcends party lines. They will get an opportunity to discuss this matter with the Cabinet Committee tomorrow.
Two terminals at the Colombo port have already been privatized under the guise of attracting investments. We have only generated revenue worth $120 million from these entities in the last 4 years. We single-handedly generated revenue worth $286 million for the Jaya terminal. But the investments have only generated $120 million as revenue. The income generated through the Jaya terminal, that is single-handedly managed by the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, amounted to $286 million in 2019. The people can understand who would benefit as a result of depriving the country of foreign revenue under the guise of attracting investments.
We cannot arrive at a consensus, as it would mean that either we or the president have lost our struggle. But we don't want to win over the president. Ultimately, we only need the country to win and to protect our institution. Therefore, we will work together to achieve this goal. We will begin discussions with the negotiation committee appointed by the cabinet at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Our greatest national resource is the sea that surrounds us. Over 8 times the size of our landmass. Let's proudly call it what it is: the Sea of Sri Lanka.
The Frontline Socialist Party has made a revelation on certain transactions that have been taking place at the Colombo Stock Exchange.
We're increasingly suspicious on the activities taking place at the Colombo Stock Exchange. The budget has provided a 50% tax concession for companies listed with the Colombo Stock Exchange, while also simplifying the taxes on capital gains. These proposals were put forward citing them as a move on encouraging investments to the country. But we are suspicious of how companies are being listed with the Colombo Stock Exchange in a short period. Are these companies doing this to avail themselves of the tax concessions? What sort of money is flowing into the stock exchange? We are suspicious whether a money laundering racket is taking place through these activities. We have our doubts as to whether the swindled and looted money by politicians are being laundered through this process. Therefore, the Finance Ministry, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the government, including the cabinet, must reveal the truth. We strongly urge the government to divulge the exact situation connected to these activities and to also reveal its stance on the matter.
The worst disease that can grip a nation is corruption. And the essential vaccine to fight it is the truth. News First. The truth as it is.
In one of your headline-making stories this evening, the State Pharmaceutical Corporation has sought permission from the National Medicines Regulatory Authority to import COVID-19 vaccines from Russia. Against such a backdrop, questions have been raised on the duration required to bring down an internationally accepted COVID-19 vaccine to the country.
Chief Executive Officer of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, Dr. Kamal Jayasingh, has said that the State Pharmaceutical Corporation's request to import a Russian vaccine is being considered by an expert committee. However, he noted that the duration required to grant permission cannot be determined at present. Russia is currently testing a vaccine known as Sputnik 5 that has been developed domestically, although the World Health Organization has not granted validation for the jab. Russia has permitted the use of the vaccine in countries such as Argentina, Belarus and Serbia and is set to produce it before the European Union for approval as well. Russia has said it will begin administering the doses of the Sputnik 5 vaccine in its country from next week. The World Health Organization has only approved the use of Germany's Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, but countries such as England have permitted the usage of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine as well. Earlier, State Minister for COVID-19 Control Sudarshini Fernandepille said that plans are afoot to import the Oxford-AstraZeneca and Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines from next month. The State Minister had noted that Lalit Viratunga is holding talks with India to import the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine in the near future. She added that Sri Lanka would receive the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine from the World Health Organization. Lalit Viratunga told Newsfirst that the documentation required for the importation of the vaccine is being prepared at present. However, India has said it will begin a massive COVID-19 vaccination drive from tomorrow. According to foreign media reports, at least 300,000 Indians are set to receive the vaccine during the first day of the exercise.
The vaccine must receive approval from the World Health Organization. The approval of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority is also required. The WHO approves the vaccine after it has completed the process of clinical testing. We will inform the people in this country about the vaccine only after carrying out post-marketing surveillance within a couple of months after WHO grants complete approval. This is because our situation is different. We might not be able to cope with any issues that may arise as a result of going against this process.
If we examine the situation, we can observe that the leading candidates in the vaccine race are the ones that are highly likely to receive the approval of the World Health Organization. Therefore, we cannot bring down the vaccine that is in the midst of this race and introduce a separate procedure to approve it. The absence of approval from the World Health Organization indicates that the vaccine is way behind in the race. Therefore, which expert qualified in the subject of vaccines has decided that the vaccines that are 5th or 6th in the race must be given preference while bringing them down to Sri Lanka?
We saw that the Russian president had received the jab. But when a vaccine is introduced in a country, it must undergo 4 stages of approval. But international medical experts are not accepting the details and success rate of Russia's Sputnik vaccine. They have said that there is a lag in receiving the relevant details as they are being held confidentially. If that is the case, why are we importing a vaccine that has not received approval?
The World Health Organization has only approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. All other vaccines are in the final stage of their validation process for emergency use. These vaccines have completed the 3rd stage of evaluation and are in a position in which it can be sold in the market. Countries have evaluated the data concerning these vaccines at local levels. Therefore, several countries have approved the administration of the vaccines in their respective nations, although the World Health Organization has not approved. A vaccine or medicine can be used in Sri Lanka only under the approval of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority. There are local agents of 3 leading vaccine producers in the country. So, the State Pharmaceutical Corporation has prepared the relevant documents concerning the Sputnik 5 vaccine that does not have a local agent and submitted them to the National Medicines Regulatory Authority.
The Oxford vaccine is being manufactured in India. We have received funds to import this vaccine. Discussions are underway on other vaccines as well. At the moment, we cannot determine which vaccine is the best. If we receive any vaccine that has been approved by the WHO, we will take steps to distribute them if local experts grant validation for the jab. These days, we are planning out the process and making the other relevant arrangements. Therefore, we will be able to adopt the relevant course of action regarding any vaccine. The Government Medical Officers Association today warned that it would take legal action against certain media outlets that are spreading false rumours about doctors in the forefront of the COVID-19 response.
ඊර්ණාත්මක ලෙස මැදිහත් වෙලා ඉන්නවා මේ රටෙන් දුම්වැටි මත්පැන් මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය මේ රටින් තුරන් කිරීමේ.
The Government Medical Officers Association is currently a part of a program to eradicate the consumption of tobacco, alcohol and narcotics in Sri Lanka. However, our intervention in this matter has become an obstruction to certain heads of media institutions. Certain individuals have been angered due to our intervention in this matter, as it's a hindrance to their businesses which are embroiled in racketeering. In response to this, such factions are spreading false rumours that the head of the Government Medical Officers Association, Specialist Dr. Anuruddha Padeniya, has gone into hiding.
ගම්වල උවමනාව දුම්කොළ සමාගම්වල උවමනාව මත්පැන් මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය සමාගම් සහ ඒ ජාවාරම්කරුවන්ගේ උවමනාවන් ඉෂ්ට කරලා මේ රජයේ වෛද්‍යනායක සංගමය නතු කරගන්න ඒක ඔවුන්ට දවල් සිහිනයක් පමණයි.
Spreading such cheap and false rumours would not suppress us from going forward in this endeavour. We are currently in the process of obtaining legal advice and support against the defamatory remarks that have been made. We will take legal action against this matter, including the allegations that have been levelled against Dr. Padeniya, claiming that he had switched off the lights at his house at a time he was not in. How can the media violate an individual's privacy in such a manner? Legal action will be taken against all of this.
කිරීම සම්බන්ධව මේ සියල්ල සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි නීතිමය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
වැඩ කරන රෝහලේ කොවිඩ් රෝගීන් මතුවෙනකොට
When COVID-19 cases are being detected within the premises of the same hospital Dr. Padeniya works at, it is not surprising to note that another doctor working in the same ward has tested positive for COVID-19. Dr. Padeniya was only having a meal with several other doctors who serve under his supervision. However, a certain media outlet is trying to depict this as a party. As per the ethical guidelines of the WHO, it is illegal to encroach on the privacy of a COVID-19 patient or a COVID-19 contact by showing footage of their homes on media. However, yesterday, footage of Dr. Padeniya's house was shown on TV. The media outlet was attempting to mislead the public by building up a fake story. Such actions will only damage the perception the public has on the quarantine process. We constantly encourage the public to undergo quarantine. There is nothing to be afraid of. He is a specialist doctor, engaged in treating patients. He has no reason to be ashamed of undergoing quarantine. However, this media outlet attempted to create fear among the general public over the quarantine process. Such attempts will only mislead the public and create unnecessary fear to undergo quarantine. Such misleading actions should be rectified.
ඇති කිරීමක් පමණයි සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ තත්ත්වය නිවැරදි විය යුතුයි.
Meanwhile, a flight carrying 197 Ukrainian tourists arrived in Sri Lanka today. Our correspondent reported that another flight with 119 tourists on board had also arrived in the country. The tourists have arrived in Sri Lanka amidst a lockdown that is underway in Ukraine. Ukraine has been placed under a nationwide lockdown until the 25th of this month to stem the spread of COVID-19.
The Sri Lanka rupee has further depreciated to 196.05 rupees against the US dollar. The current buying rate of the US dollar today stands at 190.77 rupees. This is the highest selling rate recorded for a US dollar since 24th of December in 2020.
Meanwhile, in its external sector performance for November of 2020, the central bank said amidst a decline in earnings from exports, a number of positive developments were observed in the external sector, including a lower trade deficit and a notable increase in workers' remittances. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka added that merchandise imports continue to decline, supported by the continuation of restrictions on non-essential imports and low global oil prices. The deficit in the trade account narrowed in November of 2020 by $198 million to $565 million from $762 million recorded in November of 2019 due to a larger decline in imports compared to the decline in exports.
We are crossing over to a short commercial break. Stay with News First. We will be right back.
Struggling to find reliable plumbers, electricians, gardeners and other service providers? Bellboys got you covered.
To the news. The first phase of the park and ride luxury bus service to ease traffic congestion in Colombo was launched by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today. The bus service was initiated targeting the Makubura multi-modal centre in Kottava.
According to authorities, the aim of the park and ride luxury bus services is to offer passengers with a comfortable and secure mode of public transport. According to the President's Media Division, the service is expected to reduce vehicular movement in Colombo and its surrounding areas while reducing environmental pollution and the time taken to travel. The park and ride luxury bus service will run from 6 am to 9 pm daily. Under this program, buses will operate in 15-minute intervals between 6 am to 8 am and 4 pm to 9 pm. Buses will operate every 25 minutes from 8 am to 4 pm. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa gained first-hand experience of the bus service today. The President's Media Division further said that buses will transport passengers only based on the seating capacity and that the fare would be twice the rate charged by normal buses. Meanwhile, people travelling to Colombo will be able to park their vehicles without a cost at the Makubura Multimodal Centre and avail themselves of the latest bus service. The President was informed about the latest portal introduced by the Transport Ministry that provides details on the project and bus schedules as well.
Construction work of the Mahinda Rajapaksa International Gem Tower in Ratnapura commenced today. Prime Minister attended the event via online platforms. As a government, we have always worked to protect the workers of the gem industry. We have taken different measures to match the value of gems to the value of the country. I would like to say that under the vision of prosperity, the construction of the gem tower that began today will become a reality. It is something that you all have been waiting for many decades. We believe that within the next 4 years, a foreign income of $5 billion will be coming into the country through the gem and jewelry industry. The tower will include an office complex, a shopping mall, a banking system and a car park as well.
Meanwhile, the Colombo High Court ruled the manner in which the Bribery Commission filed a case with the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court against the former Trade Minister Johnston Fernando and 2 others was illegal.
The Bribery Commission had filed a case on the charge that 153 Satosa workers were used for political activities. Minister Johnston Fernando had filed a revision application with the Colombo High Court against the Colombo Chief Magistrate Court's decision to proceed with the case. Colombo High Court Judge Manjula Tilakaratna delivered the order accepting the preliminary objections filed by counsel appearing for Johnston Fernando. The case was also filed against former Satosa chairman Nalin Ruwanjit Fernando and former Satosa director Mohammad Sakir on the same charge. The Lawyers Forum for the People has pointed out that the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights allows individuals to appeal against their sentences. Lawyers Nama Rajpaksha, Manjusri Chandrasena and Chula Adhikari attended the media briefing.
There are 2 legal provisions on contempt of court in Sri Lanka. This includes Section 55 of the 1978 Judicature Act and Article 105, Sub-Article 5(3) of the 1978 Constitution. Apart from these laws, there is no piece of legislation specifically on contempt of court. The provision under Section 105 of the Constitution that allows the judiciary to hand out any punishment deemed fit by the court contravenes with the criminal law. There is a concept in criminal law stating that a person should be aware of the punishment related to an offence at the time of committing it. But a person committing contempt of court does not know the punishment that would be imposed upon him, as he would only be informed about it when the court issues the verdict. Therefore, this goes against this concept in criminal law. According to criminal law, a punishment cannot be imposed in retrospect. This means that the offender must know the punishment one could face by committing a wrongdoing. India has a separate act on contempt of court with interpretations on civil contempt and criminal contempt separately. We learnt about Ranjan's punishment only when the verdict was issued. Until then, we didn't know the punishment that would be handed out to him. In 2007, we signed the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This agreement accepts that a convicted individual has the right to appeal. This has been included under Section 4.2 in Sri Lanka's International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights Act number 56 of 2007. Let me read it out briefly. It says that every person convicted of a criminal offence under any written law shall have the right to appeal to a higher court against such conviction and any sentence imposed. Therefore, it has been accepted internationally and locally that a person convicted of a criminal offence has the right to appeal. But Ranjan has been deprived of this chance as the order has been issued by the Supreme Court. Some say that no one spoke about this when a sentence was handed out to Jnanasara Thera or S.B. Dissanayake. When the punishment was handed out to S.B. Dissanayake, we had not passed the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights Act. At that time, we had not accepted that a person convicted of a criminal offence has the right to appeal. This is why we did not come across legal issues when the sentence was handed out to S.B. Dissanayake. On the other hand, it was the Court of Appeal that handed out the sentence to Jnanasara Thera. He filed an appeal at the Supreme Court. Therefore, there were no legal issues in this instance as well. Ranjan might have acted in contempt of court, or maybe not. The court has issued a verdict on it. I am not contesting this verdict as well. But Ranjan must have the right to appeal against his sentence. I am requesting the Justice Minister to introduce a law on contempt of court and to prescribe a punishment against this offence. If someone files a case against me on charges of contempt of court, I will not know the punishment that entails this offence. It is dangerous to vest complete authoritative powers with the judiciary as well. That is because they are also humans. Therefore, act in accordance with Section 4, subsection 2 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. If the Sri Lankan government doesn't take appropriate action, as citizens and civic groups, we will have to complain to the United Nations that the provisions of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights are not being implemented in the country. Therefore, before we undertake such measures, we request the government to amend the laws to fall in line with the International Covenant.
සංවිධානයට පැමිණිලි කරන්න අපට සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි ඒ පියවරට යන්න කලින් ලංකා ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ මේ ජාත්‍යන්තර සම්මුතිය අනුව අපේ නීතිය වෙනස් කරන්න.
In some positive news this evening, Rear Admiral Sumit Weerasinghe has been appointed as the Chief of Staff of the Sri Lanka Navy by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa with effect from today. Rear Admiral Sumit Weerasinghe, who is a distinguished old boy of Badulla Central College, joined the Sri Lanka Navy in 1985 as an officer cadet of the 13th intake to the executive branch. Further, he followed the sub-lieutenant technical course in India in 1988 and since then was gradually promoted to the subsequent ranks in his naval career, finally being elevated to the rank of Rear Admiral on the 16th of October 2016. Rear Admiral Sumit Weerasinghe, who is a distinguished old boy of Badulla Central College, has made a prominent contribution for the eradication of destructive terrorism from the motherland in both land and sea operations and has been awarded several medals including Vishishta Seva Vibhushanaya for distinguished service, Uttama Seva Padakkama for valuable service and dedication to duty. The Chief of Staff of Sri Lanka Navy, Rear Admiral Kapila Samaravira, relinquished naval duties today to which he was committed over the past 36 years. Thereupon, the retiring senior was accorded a Guard of Honour in accordance with naval traditions before the customary naval send-off ceremony saw fellow naval officers making their formal farewells to Rear Admiral Samaravira and sending him off in a motorcade amidst the cheers of senior and junior sailors. Rear Admiral Samaravira is celebrating his 55th birthday today. Rear Admiral Kapila Samaravira, who joined Sri Lanka Navy as an officer cadet of the 13th intake in the year 1985, has held a number of significant appointments such as Flag Officer Commanding Naval Fleet, Commander Southern and Northern Naval Areas, Deputy Chief of Staff, and Chief of Staff during his illustrious naval career, rendering an admirable service to the organization. The chairmen of all Sri Lankan regional plantation companies have submitted their final proposal to amend the basic daily wage system of plantation workers in the country.
Under the final proposal, RPCs are offering a fixed daily wage of 1,105 rupees with the reintroduction of attendance and productivity incentives. The proposal submitted by regional plantation companies aims at increasing earnings of plantation workers by 30% while removing an upper limit on wages. The plantation companies have also proposed the implementation of models under which workers are paid based on their productivity. The proposed fixed daily wage will be offered thrice a week, while productivity-based models will be implemented on the other days. Under the productivity-based model, employees can earn 50 rupees for every kilo of tea leaf and 125 rupees for every kilo of rubber latex. These proposals have been submitted to the Minister of Labour Nimal Siripala de Silva during a meeting held today.
Sri Lanka will commence charter flights to Myanmar from mid-2021 in the post-COVID-19 phase.
According to a release issued by the Ministry of Foreign Relations, the meeting had been chaired by Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolambage to discuss the possibility of establishing air connectivity with Myanmar. During the meeting, Sri Lanka's ambassador to Myanmar, Professor Nalin De Silva, had pointed out that there is potential for medical tourism from Myanmar. The Foreign Secretary had noted that the commencement of flights to Myanmar will facilitate tourists from both sides, as Sri Lanka plans to reopen airports on the 21st of January for tourists.
And with that, it's a wrap of this edition of Primetime News. And remember, to stay ahead, you need to stay close to News First. For that, just simply log on to our website. That is www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Tarushakumar Singh, along with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Have a safe and a great Friday night.